I went to a high school that specialized in math and science education. My classes were full of organized, logical thinkers, and many went to prestigious colleges and became doctors and biochemical engineers or something else equally important. Interestingly enough, my high school also had well-developed English, art, and music departments. On the first day of my junior year, Ms. Chagnovich, the most feared and most beloved English teacher in the whole school, told us, "All of you future math and science majors may think that English isn't important. You may complain about reading novels and identifying symbols and explaining arguments in writing. But how do you ever expect to get into college if you can't write a decent paper? How will you ever argue your research with your professors? How will you solve important problems if you don't know how to think?" Miss Chagg's mini lecture changed my whole perception of education that day. In her wisdom, she was able to connect disciplines that seemed so disconnected. But what she said is true. Subjects in school really are only divided by notebooks. Each influences the other and plays a role in educating the whole person. I have a brilliant engineer friend named Jerry that also has a talent for music. He plays several instruments and can also arrange scores. It seems so effortless, but when you ask him about it, he says, "It's no big deal. Music is just math. Once you understand the formula, the rest falls into place." When I consider my high school classmates, many of these future mathematicians and scientists were also talented artists and musicians. At a young age, many of their parents required them to play instruments, perform in musicals, or create visual arts. Could it be that their experience in music and art helped them become better at math and science? There are many studies that suggest just that. A report by Americans for the Arts states that young people who participate in art 3 hours a day, 3 days a week, for a full year are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement, to participate in a math and science fair, or win an award for writing an essay or poem than did children who did not participate. Data from the College Board shows that in 2014, students who took 4 years of arts and music classes in high school scored an average of 96 points higher on their SATs than students who only took a half year or less. And that average is consistent for the last 15 years of data collection. Now, one might argue that these students in these studies are simply predisposed to these subjects. They might have higher socioeconomic status and are more likely to do well in school in spite of any art training. But studies also show that arts education is helping all types of students, including those considered disadvantaged because of their parents' income levels or any personal disabilities. Researchers for Champions for Change said that sustained learning in music and theater correlated to a greater success in math and reading, and students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds see the greatest benefits. In fact, learning in and through the arts can help level the playing field for youngsters from disadvantaged circumstances. A Harvard study showed that with regular training in motor and listening skills needed to play an instrument, students with dyslexia showed a particular improvement in attention and memory. These studies are pretty remarkable. Each is saying that every student, no matter what their background or predispositions, academically benefit from formal training in art and music. So is it possible that all the educational woes of our country could be solved with mandatory, well-developed arts and music programs? The research seems to support that theory. But with so much proof of the value of arts education, why don't we see more of it in our schools? With the No Child Left Behind Act in 2001, and now the new Common Core standards, STEM subjects and the technical side of language arts are now the central focus in today's schools. It makes logical sense. If American students show low proficiency in math, then we should spend more time in math, right? At increasingly young ages, children are expected to demonstrate more complex ideas in these subjects. At the end of this academic year, my kindergartner is supposed to be able to independently name the plot, setting, and characters in the story, and then write about the characters' motives in complete sentences and demonstrate an adequate understanding of addition and subtraction. These are very ambitious goals for many kids that might have never sat behind a desk before. Because the standards are so high, teachers have little time for anything else. Art, music, and even storytelling have become extras. My son's teacher told me that she has to bring in kids at recess if they want to fit in an art project. There certainly isn't time for any creativity. Another problem is funding. I was in elementary school when our local district began to cut funding for art and music programs. Band teachers and art classes simply cost too much when schools need to pay for water, books, insurance, and even pensions. All of these expenses are important, but something has to give, right? Unfortunately, the federal government won't be much help. Federal funding for arts education averages about $250 million a year. Now divide that up among the 98,000 schools in the United States, and that only gives about $2,500 per school. So the two main things standing in the way of students receiving art and music education is time and money. Teachers don't have time because of rigorous academic standards, and districts don't have enough money to pay for programs. These are two huge hurdles. So what can be done? How can we jump the hurdle of time? Well, what if we donate some of ours? I know that my son's kindergarten teacher would gladly accept anyone willing to come to his class for an hour to create art with a few kids. A friend of mine is an empty nester, so she volunteers once a week at a local elementary school. She teaches the kids songs and leads a few art projects that the teacher plans. We won't change the nation's academic standards, but we can donate some time to make sure some students get art and music. What about the hurdle of money? How can we jump that? Well, one way is to simply donate money or supplies, or we could raise money for a special program. Another helpful thing to raise is your voice. Write a letter, attend a meeting, and tell the school district that you think art should be a core subject at your school. DoSomething.org is an organization that promotes giving among teenagers. One of their projects is to create posters in support of the arts and plaster them all over the school. Then they are encouraged to follow up with a student meeting about the importance of art funding. The money hurdle can be cleared with a little organization and effort. I love the idea of my kids getting a rich education that teaches the whole person, not just the academics. They need the problem-solving skills and critical thinking and discipline and complex physical and mental connections that come from the arts. The beauty of the arts does not simply exist to be beautiful. The beauty of the arts helps us all grow from the inside out. I really hope that all of our students will one day have the opportunity to explore these not so extra subjects. Thank you.